Okay, Bava Metzia, daf Pei Daled Amud Bet. If at any point I can't read the fine print of the Mekorot that I always print too small, so maybe I'll call in a volunteer, which we don't usually do. Just because of my eyes. Okay, so...
I'll read it for you.
Okay, Oren will read it. Good. So we last left off telling a story about Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon. This week, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to learn the continuation of that story. There's a part 2 and even potentially a part 3, which we might do next time. But it's a long story. And so if you remember last week, we learned about Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon that he, at the end of it, he had fat cut out from his stomach. They left it out in these buckets and then it was not masriach. And he said, Af bisari yishkon levetach. So we're going to learn the next part of that tale about Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon. And then we're going to just look at some mefarshim on various aspects of that story. In particular, the Eitz Yosef as a chidush that I thought was clever. And that we'll stick to that for this week. Again, just because of my pink eye. So, the Gemara Bava Metzia, Daf Pei Daled Amud Bet, says as follows. V'afilo hachi lo tzmach Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon adate. So if you remember Rabbi Elazar Shimon from last time, so he was concerned that maybe he had he'd arrested or hanged somebody who was innocent, and then he did this test with the fats, like we just said. So the Gemara then continues and says, even after that, he still wasn't sure that he had done the right thing, even after this miracle with the fats. So Chabel alei Yisurei, so he accepted upon himself Yisurin in order to cleanse himself. Okay, Beorta havu maichile shitin namte. So at night they would lay out underneath him 60 linens or 60 felt sheets, and in the morning they would clean out from underneath him 60 layers of blood and pus. That's how much he suffered at night. He had whatever affliction he had. Okay. And then in the morning, his wife would make for him 60 lafta, 60 relishes, I think, 60 dishes, and he would eat from them, and he would feel it would restore his health, it would restore his spirits. He would feel better from the afflictions of the night. But his wife would not let him go to the Beit Midrash, so that, because she was worried that the rabbis would push him too far. He would go to the Beit Midrash, he would get, the rabbis would push him as part of the limud, and he wasn't healthy enough to be able to withstand it, so she wouldn't let him go. So at night, when his afflictions would come, he used to say to them, my brethren and friends, come. He welcomed the Yisurin. But in the morning he'd say to them, go away, because now you're preventing me from learning. Once his wife heard him declare this. So she said to him, you're welcoming these Yisurin upon yourself. You are wasting away the money of my father's house, because I have to spend all this money on these felt sheets, and then to take care of you and to make this food. You're wasting away all that money. It's voluntary. You're accepting these Yisurim by yourself, and I have to pay for it. So she rebelled and she went back to her father's house. Yeah, that's the first part. So then 60 sailors came up and visited Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon. Okay, each of them came with 60 servants, and they each had 60 wallets or purses. And these 60 servants would make for him 60 relishes, and then he ate from them. So one day, the wife, who had since left Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon and got back to her father's house, she said to her daughter, it was their daughter, so go check up on Abba, see what's going on with him. Now that I've left him, so, how's he faring? So Atya, the daughter, went to him. So Amar Allah, so then Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon said to her, Zili amri le'imich shelanu gadol mishelahem. Go tell your mother that ours is greater than yours. In other words, these sailors have come and given me way more than you ever gave me. I don't need you, and, fakir, good riddance. So yeah. Karei nafshe, so he applied to himself the pasuk Hayta kaniyot socher mimerchak tavi lachma, which is from Eshet Chayil, but he's applying it not to his wife, to the sailors, right? Which is great. Achal ushti uvri, and then he ate and he drank and he got healthy. And what did he do? Nefak levei midrash. Why did he go to the Beit Midrash? Because his wife was no longer there, restraining him from going. So Aitu lekameshiti mine demat harinhu. So they brought before him 60 different types of blood to determine if it's tahor or tameh, like nida blood. Tarinhu, and he said all 60 of them were pure. So the rabbis were murmuring, and they said, right, the 60 cloths, surely at least one of them must be tameh. What are the odds that all 60 of them are tahor? So Amar Lahu, he said to them, Im kamotihu yiyu kulam scharim, v'im lav tehena keva achad benehem. She said, if I'm right, let the offspring of all of these, the fact that I was matar them, that means that they can go be with their husbands, let them all give birth to men. And if I'm wrong, then let there be a woman. Hayu kulam scharim, and they were all men. V'asiko lahu Rabbi Elazar shmei, and all 60 of those boys were named Rabbi Elazar after him, because he was the one who was matar them and allowed them to be born. So Tanya Amar Rabbi, so Rabbi taught, Kama Priya Revia Bitla Risha'a Zo Mi Yisrael. So he said, Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon's wife, who used to not let him go to the Beit Midrash, she prevented him from going and being metaher all of these potential sfekot. She prevented all of the children that Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon would have allowed to come into the world. Kama Priya Revia Bitla Risha'a Zo Mi Yisrael. Okay, it's all her fault. Part 3. So when Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon was about to die, Amar Vitu, so he said to his wife, it seems they've reconciled since, or they're back together. Yadana de Rabbanan dirtiche alai. So I know that some of the rabbis are upset at me. Rashi says it's because of the episode from when he was arresting thieves that we learned last week. So maybe some of the relatives were arrested so that they were upset at him. So vela mi aski bi shapir, and they're not going to treat me well when I die. No, they're not going to attend to me properly in my burial. So igvenan bi litai vela tidchalin minai. So keep me in the attic and don't be distressed of it. Don't be afraid. Don't be worried about it. So Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani. So he said, Ishta, and this is, I've never seen anything like this next line in the Gemara. I don't remember ever encountering something like this. Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani. Ishtaya le ime de Rabbi Yonatan, the Ishtaya le debitu de Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. So I heard from the mother of Rabbi Yonatan, who heard from the wife of Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. No, it's a chain, but he's hearing it from the mother of Rabbi Yonatan, who gossiped with the wife of Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. Now he's kind of conveying that chain of tradition. La pachot mitimna Yisrael latfe me'esrenu trein shnin agnite be'ilita. So the wife of Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon testified, I did not leave Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon in the attic for less than 18 years and not more than 22 years. So she gives this range of time that she left him in the attic, between 18 and 22 years. So she said, when I would go up, I used to look at his hair. And when one of his hairs would fall out from his head, blood would ooze out from the follicle. Meaning, even though he'd been dead for 18 years, there was still blood in his head to show that he had never decomposed. Yom achad, Chazayi Richshא deka Nafik Meodnea. One day I went up to check on him, and I saw a worm was emerging from his ear. Chalash datai, and it made me nervous. Right, I got worried. Itchazeli bechalma. So then my late husband appeared to me in a dream. He said to me, La midehu, don't worry about it, it's fine. Yom achad shamei bizluta detzurba mirabanan v'lo mechai kedebaili. Because one time when I was alive, I heard one of the students, the rabbinical students, was insulted or spoken to not nicely, and I didn't protest the way I should have. So as a punishment, now my corpse that is not decomposed is punished with a worm emerging from its ear. Okay, this is part 2 of the story. This is part 3. Maybe we'll learn it next week. So Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. I want to just look at some details of this story. Okay, so the first is this last piece here about the worm emerging from the ear. So if we look at the very end of Makot on Daf Chaf Daled Amud Aleph, so at the very end of Masechet, this is the last Daf of Masechet Makot. Famously, it's right. Rabbi Simlai says there were Taryag mitzvot, and then various people came and summarized them into less and less categories. Right. That this prophet came and summarized them as 11, and then 6, and 3, and 2, and then 1. The tzaddik b'emunato yichya. So in that list, Yishayahu ve'midan al shesh. Yishayahu came and established all of Taryag mitzvot on 6. Tichtiv, there's a pasuk in Yishayahu, Olech tzedako v'dover misharim u'es bevetza ma'ashakot, no'er kapav mitmoch b'shochad, otem ozno mishmo adamim, v'yotze minav mir'od bera. And that's broken up into 6 different areas of mitzvot. So it goes and analyzes each of them, and in that list, otem ozno mishmo adamim, that a righteous person, he blocks his ears from hearing damim, right, from hearing, pshat, I don't know, damim, but something, that's not, I don't know. So the interpretation is, that this is someone who refuses to listen when one of the rabbis is being insulted. Or not refuses to listen, refuses to stay silent when he hears one of the rabbis being insulted. For example, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Okay? So Rashi draws the connection between this Gemara in Makot and our Gemara. Where Rashi says, V'asocher tapoalim, that's the name of our perek. Nafik Richshא Meodnea, right? The worm emerged from his ear. Khazay litete b'chalma, he appeared to his wife in a dream. V'amar la hayde shemit bezilut d'rabana merabana v'lo m'chayik in the baili. Alma b'chayav hava ragil dakdek b'kach. So apparently that was what he was known for, was that he always made sure to stand up for the honor of tzurba mirabanan. L'fichach hikpid HaKadosh Baruch Hu alav al oto apam shelo micha. So the fact that he didn't do it one time, that's why he needed to be punished with the worm, because that was what he was known for, was being extra makpid on that. So that explains why he was punished even in death because of it. Okay? Good. The next thing I want to do is to look at the following. Right? If you remember, there seems to be a theme with Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon and worms and decomposing. Right? It's something that's revisiting itself now. There's a Gemara in Bava Batra on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph which says as follows: Tanu Rabbanan, Shiv'a lo shalat bahem rima v'tole'ah. There were 7 people that the worm never had control over them. Ve'eluhem Avram, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, u'Vinyamin ben Yaakov. Okay, Avram, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, dichtiv behu bakol mikol kol. Right, we say in benching bakol mikol kol. That's because by Avraham it says Vashem berachat Hashem Avram bakol. And by Yitzchak, it says Mikol, and by Yaakov it says Kol. So Bakol Mikol Kol is actually a reference to a bracha that each of the Avot got. So the assumption here is Bakol Mikol. What does that mean that they were blessed, each of them, with Kol? It means that even in death, they were kept pure. Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, Dichtivu al Pi Hashem. Each of them died al Pi Hashem, which we know is like the Neshika. So they were also, they died al Pi Hashem, which means that they were protected from decomposing. Uvinyamin ben Yaakov, dichtiv uvinyamin amar yedid Hashem yishkon lavetach alav. He will dwell forever in security. So it means that even in death he will be protected. V'yesh omrim af David dichtiv af v'sari yishkon lavetach. Note this is the pasuk that Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon applied to himself in a literal way. So here it's applied to David, who's the one who originally said it in Sefer Tehillim. V'idach hurach hamed hu dekabay. So v'idach, meaning the one who doesn't include David on the list. What does he do with that pasuk? It means he was asking for that he shouldn't decompose, but he didn't get that, as Hashem denied his request. Okay, so Tosfot asks here, Tema leRashba, d'chulu tzadikei nami, de'amar b'Shabbat b'perek HaShohel v'rekev atzamot kin'a, mi shesh lo kin'a b'libo atzmotav nirkavin, v'she'en kin'a b'libo en atzmotav markivin. So Tosfot says, based on this, there were only 7 people who had the Rima v'Tole'ah did not have any control over them. But Tosfot asks, we have a Gemara in Shabbat which says, anyone who has kin'ah b'libo, his bones rot. Anyone who does not have kin'ah b'libo, his bones don't rot. So what's the contradiction? That there have been more than 7 people in history who did not have kin'ah in their hearts. So shouldn't it be that those people's bones didn't rot? Why are you telling me there were only 7? Shelo shalat ben Rima v'Tole'ah. And Tosfot answers, V'yesh lomar di'achol liyot שלא ירכב וישלוט בו רימם ותולעה. In other words, we're comparing two things that are not necessarily identical. That it could be that someone's bones don't rot, but they still have a rimah v'tole'ah bisholet over them. So how's that possible? That my bones don't rot because I didn't have kinah in my heart, but I still have rimah v'tole'ah. So Tosfot says, "K'de'amar b'maaseh Rabbi Elazar bar Bishimon v'socher tepo'alim de nafik ריחשא מאודניה." Rabbi Elazar bar Bishimon had worms emerging from him, but his body did not decompose. So here we have an exact example to resolve this contradiction that Tosfot brings from the Gemara in Bava Metzia to the Gemara in Shabbat. Good. Okay. And then I wanted to conclude, and like I said, we'll do it short this week, just because first of all, everybody's yawning. I don't know if that's because of my pink hair or whatnot, but
I wasn't.
I'm not.
No, but
Really.
it's
Because of the worms.
contagious. Also, yeah.
the worms.
I'm
Yes.
the only one that's not cold. I'm actually hot.
Worms come and get me. That's why there's no food this week.
Okay.
No one has all lost appetite.
Yeah. Okay, so the Eitz Yosef has the following diuk on Gemara, where he says, "No." Okay, put these out of order. The second one is meant to be first, where it says, "Lo yiyu chulan zcharim." Okay, so you remember that Rabbi Elazar bar Bishimon at some point in the story says, right, if I'm wrong, so then there'll be one female, but if I'm right, they should all be males. So look at what the Eitz Yosef says. Wait. Was I? Where? I was confused. Yes. Okay. In the second picture. Sorry. V'yivuar al pi ma dekatav sefer bessefer kotnot or parshet vayishlach pasuk vahi b'kshota b'ledata v'tomer la hamialedet al tidagi al tiri ki gam ze lach ben. That's when Rachel was giving birth to Binyamin, and she was having a hard time in childbirth, so her midwife said to her, it's okay, it's a boy, right? So the Sefer Kodnot Or, he asks the obvious question on this pasuk. He says, V'zel shono, yesh ledakdek. Ma nechama hizo al tzara, shiksheta beledata, shegam zelach ben. Okay, Rachel's dying in childbirth. So you're going to tell her, don't worry, it's a boy? Like, what kind of comfort is that? Yeah, exactly. So that's the question he asks. V'nira de'ita beperek b'memalikin al gimel averot nashim metot b'shat leidatan. This should be familiar to us, right? So we say it on Friday. Women three. Sorry?
Depends if you're Nusach Ashkenaz or Sfard.
Nachon, that's right. If you're Nusach Ashkenaz, well, we just said this is, anyway, it's Ashkenaz. Right?
Yeah, it's fun.
So look, it connects, right? Because you only say Bava Metzia. Okay.
The Mishnah in the Shas,
So there are three sins which cause women to die in childbirth, right? What are they? Good. Okay, so one of them, one of them is nida. Mishum de'ikid kela b'chadrei bitna. So why does a woman who's not careful in nida die in childbirth? Because she was kilkela in that aspect of her life, so then that aspect of her life is going to also be mekalkel her when she gives birth. In other words, it's midah keneged midah. Okay. V'ita b'midrash, she'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, im shamarti yimei nidah, ani eten lecha ben. There's a midrash that says, if you keep the halachot of nida, I will bless you with a boy, Bezrat Hashem, and then you will circumcise him at 8 days. Okay. So where's he going with this? V'im ken sachar shel mishamrei nida shenotin lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu ben zachar. So if someone gives birth to a male child, it's a reward for having kept the halachot of nida.
So she's not going to die because.
Okay, good. V'Rachel ra'ata shehi mesukenet lamut. Right, she thought she was going to die. Right, b'tzar leda v'yar'a shelo yachashdu ha'briyot. Now up to the first page. Ella.
No.
Oh no, sorry. Now down to
Lomar shehi kilkela. Just the same.
Oh, lomar shehi kilkela. Thank you. B'chedra bitna. Lefichach b'chedra bitna. So what was Rachel afraid of? Rachel was afraid she would die in childbirth, and people would think that she hadn't kept the halachot of nidah properly.
Who would think that? All the Jewish people in the world?
Yeah, the briot. They would say she didn't keep the halachot of nidah. She was afraid of that. Ulechach amra miyaledet. That's why the Torah went out of its way to tell us that the midwife said to her, "What? Al tir'i ki gam ze lach ben, v'im ken lo yichashducha shelo shamart zayin yimenidah." Right, Adkan. That's what the Sefer Kodnot Or says. Right, the fact that you're having a boy, people will know that you did keep the halachot of nidah, so you don't have to worry. Even though you're dying from childbirth, it's not because of nidah. Okay. So that's the Kodnot Or. So what does that have to do with what Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon? And now that it's Yosef, after quoting the Sefer Kodnot Or, says as follows: "V'zeu she'amar im kemoti hu yiyu kulam scharim." So he says, if I'm right that all 60 of these,
So it means everybody keeps it.
we're actually b'tahara, let them all be sons. Why? Oh, right? Shemizeh yiyeh ra'aya. Right? That means that he understood that they were all keeping halachot midah l'kmosh tzavur. So the Yosef applies this Joshua the Kodnot Or here, which is I think a very
Not
smooth.
just that, but he was right.
I mean, this theory makes it sound like every girl that's born is big.
And it's in.
If there was a suffix before.
יש בת זכר ויש בת נקבה.
What does that mean?
Shanizke.
So we learned last year also in the Masechet Nidah. We spent some time talking about this. There's the Gemara that says, what was the language?
I don't remember.
If the husband lets the wife
Oh yeah.
finish.
What?
What?
שקי תזרע ואין זכר.
Ashkenazi?
No,
Right. Mishin Nizra Tchila is
No, but it doesn't make sense, because if you remember, we learned about Rachel, she had Dinah,
Right.
and then they switched it because of Leah as this
Good.
switch. So maybe she wasn't.
Good. Go on. I thought about this too.
So I'm saying it just doesn't
What?
sit well.
Yeah, say that.
Unless they change it, because they also want to say that Rachel was keeping Ilchot Nidah as well.
So I meant to look this up, but then again my eyes got messed up, so I didn't get the chance. But we learned last year, what Kobe's referencing, that there's a midrashim that talk about how Leah and Rachel originally their ubarim were in each other's wombs. That Rachel was pregnant with Dinah, and Leah was pregnant with Yosef, and then they swapped. Do you remember this? Oh, you're just copying me. Okay. And then they switched.
Okay.
How do you know?
We talked about. So how does that connect to this? I also tried to make that connection because he brings a proof from Rachel when she's giving birth to Binyamin. So how would that connect to this?
No, the question is, so
That's a fun story.
So they swapped because of Leah was asking to switch. So Rachel had two sons, and because Rachel was keeping Nidah, so they had to switch it to make sure everybody would see it.
To know she...
Okay. So when she died, because she was dying, so
Meaning we said Leah was originally pregnant with the boy, but she prayed. Right. Oh, right. She davened. I'm remembering what we did last year. She davened for Rachel. That's what we said.
yeah,
So that
because she
Rachel
said
should
it's
have a
going to
boy.
be 12 kids, 12 sons. Already have 6, 2, and
And
1.
she has a
So
daughter.
who's going to have? Yeah.
Okay, and then she swapped them. Okay.
כדי שידעו הבריות שהיא שמרה על נידה. נכון?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe, I'm saying maybe.
So you're saying this is an additional.
אולי זה ביחד עם זה.
Very good. Okay. כאילו.
כאילו שהיא הולכת למות בלידה, אז שהיא תמות שהיא יולדת בן.
Except that midrash was that she got Yosef swapped, and here she died when it was Binyamin. Yeah. Well.
So never mind.
No, but it's just, you could still argue it. You could say that Binyamin was a zachar for the idea of nidah, but maybe when Leah davened that Rachel. Good. We're building this here. Good. When Leah davened that her ubar should go to Rachel, so Rachel should have a boy, so that it could be. That because she didn't want people to think I already have 6 boys, so no one's going to suspect me,
Right.
Leah, of not keeping nidah to have a child. But Rachel's been akara for a long time, so maybe she would say, I'll do whatever it takes to have a child, and then she would have a daughter. People would think she didn't keep nidah; she was so desperate to have a child. So Leah davened to swap it, swatch it, so that she would have a boy, so no one would be choshed.
That's a chidush. Everybody, whoever's gonna listen to this recording, that's
In
a
100
It's
years.
a chidush Pi Reb Kobi. It's very good.
Shimon, you should listen on to this part. It's a chidush.
בזכות החטיפים.
Is that good? So we'll connect. Yeah, we have to connect. I'll go back and re-listen to what we did last year, and I'm sure that there's a good connection there. But yeah, very good. Okay. Just to conclude, that makes sense, right? What we just said. It's a good finish. Good. Okay, good.
There was Binyamin and he might switched, or
Yosef.
Yosef, I made a whole mistake in there.
Okay, so
but he said-
no, but I'm saying the reason Yosef was a boy is no one would be choshed also Rachel to be. That was part of what motivated Leah, and then we see it again with the birth of Binyamin, like the Sefer Kod Nora says. So you take the same idea. Okay, just to conclude, Arif, he says the following: Afilu hachi lo samach, in the first on the top. So his question is essentially, when we say Vafilu hachi lo sarach in the beginning of the story, right? What happened in last week's episode? Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, he had his stomach cut open and he laid out these buckets of fat and they didn't putrefy, even though they should have. Vafilu hachi lo samach. Like what more do you need? So he says. פירש לא סמיך דעתה וכולי ותמה, שכבר בדק עצמו בדיקולי דתרבה. Right, he already checked himself with the buckets of fat. דמנחי בשמשה ולא מסרחי. וקרא נפשי על בשרי ישכון לבטח. So what do you mean? ואיך היה חושש שמא חטא מאחד הצדיקים? How could he still have been nervous that he did something wrong and accidentally arrested a tzaddik if he had this proof that he did last time, that he has to go and accept Yisurin upon himself now? Right? ויש לומר, והיה אפשר לומר, שאף על פי בגופו לא ישלוט בו רימה, עדיין היה חושש על נשמתו, שלא תהיה נידונית בגיהנום על שפיכת דם צדיק, ולכן קיבל איסורין. So he suggests maybe it could be that then that's how he knew that his goof was pure, that he didn't do anything wrong with his body, but maybe his neshama, he still felt that he needed to purify.
Maybe that's a connection to Rachel.
Huh?
I'm saying maybe that's a connection to Rachel. Because Rachel, maybe she was afraid, not that she just didn't keep Midah just for herself, also for Yaakov as a tzaddik. So that's why the Melech told her, don't worry, you have a son, so everything is good. Don't worry, you can die now.
So they wouldn't suspect the Yaakov.
Her and Yaakov.
Good. Because she's dying anyway, who cares? She was choshesh for kavod
No,
her
so I'm
husband?
saying maybe. I'm saying because he was worrying about himself, maybe because of the tzaddik, maybe I wasn't right. So also Rachel is like, okay, you're right, everything was okay, everything is fine, you're fine, Yaakov is fine, don't worry, nobody's gonna think about it.
Sure. Yeah. It could be. Good. Okay. Where were we? ומה שפירשי לכמה גבי רבי. Okay, we didn't learn this yet, but Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he hears this story, and he says, Yisurin are obviously a good thing, and he accepts Yisurin upon himself. And then there's a whole story with Rabbi Yehuda Nasi also about Yisurin. So that which Rashi explains that Rabbi, שאמר חביב וניסורין, based on the story, הוא פירש שם חביב שראה שהועילו ייסורין של רבי אלעזר, שלא שתה בו רימה. Right, that the Yisurin obviously worked because when he died, his body didn't decompose. V'kasha, so the Harif says that's difficult. שקודם שבאו ייסורין על רבי אלעזר, נודע, right? נודע שלא היה שולט בו רימה, מדקולי ותרבה וכולי. In other words, he already proved from the buckets of fat that his body was pure. So he accepted Yisurin upon himself, and then when he died, so his body didn't decompose. So Rashi explains, when Rebbe says, Yisurin are really good to clean you from sin, because look at Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, when he died, his body didn't decompose. But how do you know it was from the Yisurin? Maybe he was, even before, without the Yisurin, he was fine, as the buckets of fat showed before he even did the Yisurin. Okay? So I want to skip what he says in these next few lines, mostly because I didn't quite understand them, and go to the Od Yesh Lomar, which is at the end of that second line. The Od Yesh Lomar de Bitchila Tava Rabbi Elazar Yisurin. That first Rabbi Elazar accepted Yisurin upon himself. ואחר כך בדק עצמו בדיקולי דתרבה, בשמשה. And after that, he tested himself with the buckets of fat. ואף על פי שבתלמוד הובא היי דאפיק דיקולי תרבה בתחילה, ואחר כך הביא עניין הייסורין שקיבל, right? That in the Gemara, it has one and then it has the other right after. It has, we learned it in the order it's in Shas. And it's first there's the story up until he checks with the buckets, and then it says, but he still wasn't good enough, so he went and accepted Yisurin upon himself. So Arif says, I want to argue that really it's the other order. That first he accepted the Yisurin, and then he did the test with the buckets. All right, so why does Shas bring it in the other direction? So then Arif says, Ein mukdam u'muchar b'Gemara.
I don't get it.
The magic.
All right.
Magic answer.
Right.
I don't
Don't
get
ask
it.
me.
Right.
Go.
It means that things don't have to be in chronological order in the Gemara. In the Torah, there's this idea of Ein Mukdam Muchar Torah, that sometimes stories are told out of order. The difference, of course, is that's usually in the context of stories that are in completely different places. But here, the Gemara says it like one story and then the next story. So why would it record them one after the other, specifically in the wrong order? But he says Ein Mukdam Muchar Gemara. How does that help him? Because then I say that the Yisurin were before the buckets of fat, and therefore...
That makes sense. He's
right?
not even talking about the death notes.
Right, he wasn't talking about the death, he was talking about the buckets, exactly. And then it's good, the Tava Yisurin chaper alav, right? He accepted afflictions upon himself in order to get atonement. Im chata b'echad min hatzadikim, ve'achar ken asa mivchan, and then he did the test with the bucket of fat, leida im nitkaper lo, to see if the fact that he accepted Yisurin upon himself was effective. Right? Because originally when we learned it last week, he just did that after they told him, "Oh, don't worry, this guy and his son, they're Nara Me'osa and Yom Kippur." And they said, "Okay, I'm going to make sure that he did the bucket of fat." But he didn't actually. That was back last week. We said he checked the buckets of fat to make sure that this example of this one person who ended up being actually a rasha, just as he thought. So he did the buckets of fat. But if you say, no, really, he did the Yisurin, it gives more emphasis to why he's checking with the buckets of fat, because he tried to atone himself even beyond just having this one example where he was vindicated. לידע אם נתכפר לו ואף ידקו אם יתרבה בשמשה וקרא עליו שאף בשרי ישכון לבטח ולכך פירה שראה רבי שהועילו האיסורין של רבי אלעזר שלא שתה ברימה. And so when Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says, I see Yisurin effective because he didn't decompose, then I can say it means he didn't decompose with the buckets of fat. And then, of course, also when he died, and it explains Rashi's explanation of what Rebbe saw that led him to think Yisurin were effective. Yeah, so the reason I like that was because he says En Mukdam Muchar Gemara, which I never heard before, which is a nice idea.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a good idea.
It's not a good ride.
Like, I mean,
it's the hook, right here.
especially because he did the test following that adds more to the flow of the story. It's very clear.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, the way we apply it to Torah, Ein Mukdam Mocher, you could apply it to Gemara. Like, the Masechta here and the Masechta there, it's not a linear reading.
Right.
So that makes sense.
You can't say
But
like,
you
Yaakov salach malachim after he met Esau.
Right.
They don't know.
Right.
You do. Yeah.
So, go ahead.
This Friday night, B'ezrat Hashem,
Yes.
8:30 at Tish. Rosh Chodesh Adar.
Ligvarim.
It's good. Come.
Die Gvarim and also for the Nachshon kids.
That's right.
Yeah. Talia is going to be
the boys.
allowed to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Is Owen gonna wear
A coat?
a coat?
Do you want to wear like a fur, what's it called?
Like
Don't think about it.
Like singing.
Sing
Yeah.
on
Don't
the-
think about me wearing even a sweatshirt.
Not a coat. Like Labor Day.
That's good.
All right.
From Brady.
Nom, nom, nom.